Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today is something really cool. We're talking about the best year of film. And now, obviously, this is all subjective. In fact, this was inspired by my friend Sam, who actually made a video on 1975 being the best year for film. In fact, that was actually inspired by a conversation that we were all having as a group of friends that we have, and talking about the best decade of film and what that looks like, and thinking about the best years. In fact, a lot of the years that come to my mind for best years, some could say 1939, some could say 1957, 1975 is definitely a really good one as well. But to me, the best year of film, and this all comes down to subjective, things that, what we really like to watch. The movies that I want to talk about today is talking about 1987. 1987 is such a fun year of films, and it's definitely one of those years of films that I quite enjoy. So today I want to just talk about 5 specifically recommendations from this particular year that are my favorites in the year, but I do also want to do some honorable mentions first, so let's just get that out of the way as quickly as possible. All right, before we jump into the top 5, I actually kind of want to just kind of run down some of the other films that I really enjoy this year. In fact, it's stacked. This year is stacked with films that I enjoy. And so the reason I picked this year is because it's just so enjoyable, and there's a lot of rewatchability in a lot of the films that I'm going to mention. So that's the reason why I'm mentioning these films. So a lot of them, this is all personal and subjective, so don't get upset if yours did not make my top 5, my recommendations. However, I do want to mention these ones. So the first one I want to mention is Monster Squad. Really fantastic co-written by Shane Black, who this year, Shane Black is very active in 1987. Another film, Lost Boys, another one that barely missed the cut, because this is definitely near, this is probably number 6 if it wasn't making a top 5 list. Another horror film and comedy is Evil Dead 2. Another film that is just fantastic, Bruce Campbell, love it. Next is a Christmas film, and speaking of the times, and also speaking of this community, Cinema Dave is an uncredited extra in this film. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, John Candy and Steve Martin. Love that film. Can't wait to watch it this holiday season. Gangster film, Untouchables, with an amazing all-star cast, Robert De Niro and Sean Connery, Kevin Costner. Yeah, Brian De Palma directed, fantastic film. Speaking of Shane Black earlier, I talked a little bit about him in Monster Squad. He directed this film, Lethal Weapon, and he wrote it as well. Lethal Weapon is a really fantastic buddy cop movie and a good series, so check that out. Next is a comedy that is in this collection right here. I'm talking about Spaceballs, of course. Mel Brooks did a fantastic job. Rick Moranis also as Darth Helmet, one of the best performances of all time, obviously. All right, let me move that stack, and let's just jump into a few more. Harry and the Hendersons, one of the coolest comedies about Bigfoot, certainly a good laugh. Next, we're moving to the polar opposite end of the fun times to a kind of a heartwarming film. In the Coker trilogy, Where's the Friend's House? Abbas Kiarostami. This is the first film in the Coker trilogy. It's a really amazing little piece of work, and if you haven't seen any of this, definitely check out the Coker trilogy because it's worth your time. All right, now moving on to another darker film, a Kubrick film, Full Metal Jacket. I don't have the 4K yet, but this is a great film. It's definitely one of my least favorite Kubrick films, but it's still a great film nonetheless. All right, next is the film that won, I think, the Oscar this year from 1987. It is The Last Emperor, and this is on Criterion. This is actually one of my first Criterions. It's a very long film, Bertolucci, right? And so, yeah, if you haven't checked out Last Emperor, definitely do so if you have some time, because it's wonderful, and it's beautifully shot. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, honorable mention-wise, was Fatal Attraction, which is also on Criterion, but I only have the normal Amaray Blue case with Glenn Close and Michael Douglas. Fantastic film, also terrifying. So let's move on into the top 5. What could they be? Let's just jump into it. All right, so my number 5 pick is a Coen Brothers production, and this is a really fantastic one. This is starring Nick Cage. It's actually probably one of my favorite Nick Cage performances, and this is a really dark comedy that just always brings me immense joy, especially with the popcorn ceiling that everyone knows about. If you don't know what a popcorn ceiling is, and you haven't rubbed your knuckles up against it, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. But Raising Arizona, this film is fantastic. It's certainly one of my favorites. It's, like I said, it's a comedy, but it's also, it's like a crime film. and these guys are all idiots. Everybody in this movie is an idiot, except maybe Holly Hunter, who is not really a moron at all. But you know, Nick Cage is, John Goodman is. John Goodman, him escaping the prison is just one of the best scenes I think ever filmed. You'll know what I mean when you watch it. Certainly check out Raising Arizona, because it's just such a fun time. It'll make you laugh, and it'll remind you of where you are in life, and hopefully you're in a good place. So let's actually move on from there to my number 4 pick. All right, so number 4 is actually, I think I briefly talked about this not that long ago, because it's the season that this is coming out in. I'm talking about a film from the Criterion Collection. It's directed by Gabriel Axel, and I'm talking about Babette's Feast. And I've talked about it, I think, several times already, but it's a great Thanksgiving film. And it's a film that really just kind of brings community together, the love of food, just this very nice, quaint kind of atmosphere going on around the film, and this lively little story. It's got some sad parts and it's got some happy parts, but overall it really just kind of brings that family, that community together, and that aspect of strangers kind of coming together. And I love it. I don't know, I absolutely love this film. If you haven't seen this one, if you're in the Barnes & Noble sale right now that's going on during November, certainly pick this one up, because it is just so fantastic, and it'll probably put a big smile on your face, and it'll make you cry a little bit too. Who knows? But yeah, that's my number 4. Let's actually talk about my number 3. My number 3 is another film from Criterion. My number 3 pick recommendation is another film from 1987. Obviously, that's what we're talking about. But we're talking about a film that is in black and white and directed by a German director, Wim Wenders. I'm talking about Wings of Desire. Holy shit, this movie is deep. It's very melancholic, very tragic, and kind of a glimpse of humanity. But at the same time, like, it's a movie that really gets you thinking, and it's gorgeously shot. It's got a wonderful direction, and we're just, you know, following along the lines of Bruno Ganz. And I really love this film. If you haven't seen this one, certainly check it out. It might be a film that might put you in a sadder mood, but at the end of the day, it's one that has a lot of hope to it, at least in my eyes. And so certainly check out Wings of Desire, another film from the Criterion Collection. So pick it up during this Barnes & Noble sale if you haven't. So another reason why I love 1987. All right, now are to my number 1 and 2 that have never changed. The reason I love this year. One's an action film. The other one is another action film, but it's also almost every other genre. So let's talk about number 2 first. Let's talk about the action film, the action sci-fi film. And I have it on Steelbook right here. I'm talking about Predator. Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator. Jesse Ventura, Shane Black. I mentioned Shane Black earlier. He's so busy. He's acting in this film. He's writing The Monster Squad. He's directing Lethal Weapon. Fuck. Like, this movie is just so perfect. I don't know. I just love Predator. It's one of those films that, like, it's super over the top, and it's like a mixture of genres, and like it's this crazy film at first, and then it kind of just tonally switches midway through the film. And there's just so many things about it that make it perfect, and it's just one of those films that is immensely joyful to watch. I watched it for my birthday in a marathon, and I love watching it as much as I can because it's just a really fun film. If you haven't checked out Predator, certainly check it out because it's really fantastic, and also I can do the Predator voice. Let's move on to my number 1. My number 1 should be no surprise if you know this year. It's 1987. It's my favorite film. It's one of my favorite films of all time, and it's a film that I will never think that it's not. And I'm super happy to have this version of it. It's on Criterion too. It's a film that it's kind of controversial to be in the Criterion Collection for some people, just from the sheer fact that a lot of people want it to be only exclusive to art house films, hard to find films, international films, etc. But this is a film that is significant to a lot of people, and I know that. And I'm talking about The Princess Bride. In fact, this was actually the film that was one of my first movie reviews on the channel. It's actually like my second video of all time. That's how much I love this movie. It's just a perfect film. Like I said earlier, it's an action film, it's a comedy, it's a romance, it's a drama. You get everything involved in this. There's some horror elements in it as well, and fantasy, and it's a fantastic, fantastic fairy tale of a film, and I'm a romantic myself, for better or for worse. But I love Princess Bride, and this is just the absolute best edition of it right here. And it's got this wonderful, wonderful booklet with The Princess Bride right here, and just kind of gives you that, you know, you get 2 film essays and about the transfer itself, and it's just like a storybook, and it feels like a book too, right? And the only thing I would say is the As You Wish part, like, you know, there was like a sticker onto this. It took out a little bit of the U. But anyway, perfect film. 1987 is my favorite year of film, but what about you? Everyone has different years, like I said. Some of them might be a little bit more objective and subjective at the same time. I'm really curious to know. Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm really all ears, and I'm excited to see your picks. And if anyone in the community is watching, you should respond and make your own video of your favorite year, because I would love to see this keep going. Thank you all for watching. Give it a comment down below, like, share this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.